just like the suds on top. Just like the suds on top. Gonna ride, 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 ride.
Good evening, I'm Ian Butler and welcome to Wavelength, the show where we talk to local people about local issues in the hope of getting everybody a little bit more on the same wavelength. Now this is, I think, show number 75 of Wavelength. We've been doing this for many years, and I think this is probably about the 6th show we've done on the topic of the quarry, which is that piece of land that, I don't know, it's a big ticket item that we can maybe someday develop and make all kinds of money and make everybody rich, but there's always a new plan coming down the pike, and there's always something kind of sucky about it. So. Here we are once again having one of these issues, and this might be the suckiest plan ever. And here to tell us all about it is a local citizen here, Mr. Pete Shoemaker.
Hi, Ian.
Hey, Pete. Welcome to Wavelength, and thanks for being on.
Great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. And so you made a video about this quarry plan, which I found very enlightening because I didn't understand much then. So we'll show that in a little bit. But first, let's talk a little bit of how you've gotten yourself involved in things in the community here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I got to Pacifica with my wife back in 1989. I was in escrow during the earthquake, so I remember it very well. Had an apartment in San Francisco and a 1-year-old.
So you've been here exactly as long as it's been since the Loma Prieta quake.
Exactly as long. And we really got, having a young family, it really gets you dialed into the community and the schools and all that. So we have been very much active. The tunnel was the big issue when we got there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I got motivated on that, and it's been a steady stream of things since then, of just getting involved, serving on city committees. My wife began Pacifica School Volunteers 25, 30 years ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That has been, she spun that off, and now it's a nonprofit. So she's also been very active. She's on the PB&R commission. So it's just wonderful to be involved in a community where you can know the city council and the people and know what it's like and have all these issues that are really down home. It's not fiction here. It's
yeah, it's
budget, sea level rise, all the things that are real are very real here, and I like that.
Yeah. It's stuff that you see every day as you drive by, and
right.
And yeah, so something's going to happen in that quarry someday. But you've seen the different plans over the years, right? I mean,
yes. I have been part of stopping a lot of really bad projects, and if you know the history of Pacifica over the past 50 years, there's an amazing amount of terrible projects where people just wanted to come in, pave it over, rip it off, take the money and leave us with a mess. From the freeway coming all the way through to the beach to casinos on the beach. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of thing about the quarry, and you got to stop bad ideas because open spaces are precious, and once you pave them over, they're gone. Now, we have to be realistic about the city economics, and I served on the city economic committee for a while, studying every line item of the city budget. So I know that they're not blowing smoke when they're talking about the economics of the city.
We need to do something.
We do. So we have to be, if you're stopping projects, you also have to be responsible for the economics of the city and getting the right projects in here. So that's a two-part thing. You got to stop the bad ones, and then you got to focus on the good ones. And so we're trying to do both of those.
And find the okay ones and make them good ones.
Yes.
Because things can change.
Get something done. But sometimes when things come down the road that are just so outrageous like this one.
So you're not a full-on NIMBY, you're like a good in my back. You're a GIMBY.
In the right places, yes.
Right,
we do need housing, we do need business, we do need low-income housing very much so. We don't need huge single-family developments on the hills.
Yeah, that's not going to solve the housing
That doesn't
crisis.
work. In fact, that almost is negative. So a lot of stuff, but right now we're talking about the quarry, and that has a lot of potential, and it's been, people call it the quarry wars, which it has been over the years.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get started and talk about the latest quarry reclamation plan.
Yeah, so this new plan, I can't wrap my head around it. We've had, the other ones have always been kind of similar. There's been a housing thing, it's gone up to a vote, but this is completely different.
In the past, there's typically a development plan along with a reclamation plan. You know what you're going to do to the property, and you reclaim it or restore it in a proper way. This is just the opposite. There's this huge, you can see it, obviously you'll see the video, amazingly huge, stunningly huge, and risky, and with no development plan in there. But we know that there is a development plan because it's one of the city's goals to develop the quarry in an appropriate way. So the city is not being clear about what they plan to do, and that's also creating an atmosphere of unease and distrust, which is not healthy. So we're trying to deal with all that.
All right, so you You made an excellent video that explains this. I really couldn't understand it at all until I saw your video, and suddenly I went, okay, now I'm starting to get this, so maybe we should show this video. Why don't you set it up a little bit, tell us what we're going to see.
Well, I've done videos before in Pacifica about different issues and civics courses, and typically they'll get about 300 or 400 views, or 100. This one got 4,000 views, 4,000.
And this is a small city, so that's
so it's about a 26-minute video, but there's a 5.5-minute executive summary, which we're going to see here, that gives the basics, and then it goes into detail and sources and all that. I fact-checked it pretty rigorously, and so I feel it's very solid, and yeah, it's a good way to start.
Okay, well, we'll get our popcorn out.
Yep.
And let her roll here. About 5.5 minutes of this, and it's very fascinating, so I recommend everybody watch this, and you'll know exactly what this crazy plan is about. Go ahead and let her roll, please.
This video is an analysis of the reclamation plan for the Pacifica Quarry, which, along with an environmental impact report, has been issued to the public and will soon be up for approval before the Planning Commission. This potential project would be huge in scope and would take at least 4 years to complete, having a major effect on not just the quarry but all of Pacifica, including Highway 1 traffic. This video will give a short summary of the main points of the proposed project, followed by a table of contents where you can see details on every aspect of it. The site was an active quarry until 1987. This project proposes to replace part of what was a solid rock hill with a huge pile of dirt. And I mean huge. Here are the numbers. They want to bring in 1 million tons of dirt. You heard me right, 1 million tons. In volume, that is about 1 million cubic yards. This would take over 80,000 dump truck loads. That would result in 161 truck trips per day, 1 in plus 1 out, 10 hours per day, 5 days a week for at least 4 years straight. These trucks are 19 feet long and weigh up to 25 tons loaded, 10 times the weight of a passenger car. They would be entering and exiting the quarry constantly for over 4 years. Here is an overhead view of the site. The trucks would come down Highway 1 from the north and turn right into the unfinished intersection called Old Quarry Road. They would go over the flats on the dirt path, cross over the creek, and dump their load in the bowl. Then they would exit along the paved path next to the creek and out the Valimar Light. This entire area here, the bowl, would be closed off. You can imagine how constant truck traffic would affect this area, and walking along the path would look like this. There would be a flag person directing traffic in the parking lot, as trucks would come in and out of here every 3 to 4 minutes on average, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. The size and weight of these trucks makes them have 3 times the negative effect on traffic as a typical passenger car, taking much longer to accelerate and slow down for turns. So you can imagine the effect on Highway 1 traffic 10 hours per day. And what about Valimar School? The pickup and drop-off times are already jammed and high stress, and the addition of a flag person and a steady stream of huge trucks would make this a true nightmare. Twice a day, every school day for at least the next 4 years. And what about the dirt itself? It would be waste dirt from excavation sites, the type of dirt that you have to pay a lot of money to dispose of, potentially resulting in huge profits for the company that put together this plan. Most large excavation sites in the Bay Area are previous industrial and commercial sites such as shipyards and power stations, where the soil could have many contaminants. And who would test for these toxins? According to the plan, not an independent third party, but the same company that would be paid to dump them. And who is this company? Bayland Soils Pacifica is a paper company about which there is very little information. No website, no phone number that will answer, no history, no reviews, nothing. From documents filed with the state and the city of Pacifica, we know that it was formed in 2018 by 2 people whom, in 2021, were convicted of felony bribery and have been fined and jailed. The current CEO of Bayland Soils Pacifica is the son of one of these felons. I give full details and sources later in the video. So let me summarize. 1 million tons of dirt, 161 truck trips per day for 4 years, affecting Highway 1 traffic, impacting Valimar School, potential contaminants in the soil, and the company founded by convicted felons. We all would like the quarry reclaimed, with wetlands restored, invasive species removed, and trails made safer. But we don't need a mountain of dirt to do that. The restoration at Maury Point, just over the hill, shows the way. No excess dirt, no disruption, plenty of public support and volunteers. So the primary questions to ask are, why the giant dirt pile? And what is the public benefit? This plan is up for review by the Pacifica Planning Commission. I encourage you to let them know how you feel about it. Remember that it was done by people outside of Pacifica, and that neither the Planning Commission nor the City Council has had anything to do with it so far. So please be respectful in your comments and not accusatory. These people have all been sent the link to this video if they choose to look at it. This ends the executive summary. This video will continue with details of each topic in the following order.
This can't be real. You made this up, right? There's no way they're
Yeah,
doing
it's all
that.
fiction. Yeah, I'm just trying to get hits on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't, but it is,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
pretty outrageous. So I think most people's reaction when they saw this was, I'm like mine, are you kidding me? Am I on Candid Camera or America's Funniest Home Videos? I couldn't believe this was real, like somebody was
Yeah.
setting me up.
Yeah.
But it's very real, and or at least it's proposed.
It's a real proposal.
Yeah, and so there it is now. It's before the city, the planning commissions, and right now there's an environmental impact report that has been on this, which we can talk about as we go. But
Yeah.
the city staff is pushing to adopt the environmental impact report. It would be the first step for that goes to city council, and there's a lot of other things that have to happen, but we're trying to stop that.
Yeah, okay, so before this show, I thought, we need to get both sides of this. I want to be a fair, person here. So I called around and I looked around on the, social media and whatnot. I cannot find anybody that has anything positive to say about this. I did learn, one person said, well, I think that the city thinks that it addresses some safety issues, that the cliffs would be safer if you couldn't fall off of them because there's a big dirt pile there instead. That's the best I could come up with.
Well, yes. I think, yes, it's a tragedy that some people have fallen off the cliffs, and you can see that those cliffs are a little bit rough. There's other ways to make them safer without importing 1 million tons of dirt and shutting that thing down for 4+ years. So, yes, that you can't. But really, if you look at that thing, has been an inactive quarry for 40 years. People have been almost 40 years, 35, 38, and people have been walking in there. How many people have fallen? Actually, a very small number. And if you look at most parks and places like that, people fall off other parks and hurt themselves. Now, that's not great, but there are some accidents. People make mistakes. So it's not like this is a death trap. Not even close.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's an issue whatsoever.
Right.
And plus, really, I think of the fact there's that bowl scooped out is kind of a feature. I like the fact that it's got that bit of a windbreak there from the coastal winds. It's just a unique little microclimate in there. It seems like that's kind of a special thing. Why would somebody want to take that aspect of it away? And make it higher? Then you couldn't. I guess you wouldn't be able to access it without going up a hill at that point, right?
Yes, there is, from my point, we have a lot of great hills. It's wonderful. Yeah. But the flat areas are very valuable. And a lot of, how many people use that. We had that super bloom, right? The place was packed with people. And because the flat areas that can be accessible to people who are older and have mobility issues, and also with kids on bikes, young kids. So the flat areas are really a public boon. Now you want to clean the place up and make it nice and invasive species, but I would say those flat areas are quite a positive for the community.
Yeah, I'm all for restoring the habitat there. And I've thought a lot about that. I'm involved in the Native Plant Society and things like that. It never even dawned on me that the problem was that there was a hole in the ground. The problem is that there's invasive species, and we need to, once you disturb an area like that, then the invasives move in, and you have to take a lot of human effort to make it natural again, unfortunately. But the dirt doesn't address that whatsoever.
No, and what's behind it, of course, I mean, it's obvious that people want to make money. There's no question, follow the money.
Yeah.
And then there's always been this idea that the quarry is going to be our economic engine, and the economic engine that most people point to is a big hotel, because the hotel tax is a big boon to the city, no question about that.
Yeah.
And so there's always that's been part of all of these plans. Oh, we're going to put this magic hotel up there, and the Hyatt and the luxury ones, and it's going to kick off thousands of dollars, a week. It just, the idea of piling a bunch of dirt up there in an earthquake zone. This is an earthquake zone. We know that, right?
Yeah.
We know, everybody says the big one is going to come. This is a huge, huge pile of loose dirt in an earthquake zone right over the sewage treatment plant outflow, which is Calera Creek. We have that beautiful sewage treatment plant, which is hidden back there. Most people don't even know it's there. It's powered by a solar array.
Right.
And it cleans up the water, and then it goes to, if that creek were blocked by an earthquake slide of massive amounts of dirt, the sewage treatment plant would be shut down. You can imagine how that would be.
Yeah.
So again, and there's all kinds of other issues with the beach and the pollution, and it's right next to a school and community. So there's so many things. And if you really think, like there's a massive pile of dirt, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to tamp it down, try to reinforce it as best they can, but it basically it's loose dirt. So you think Hyatt or Marriott is going to put $200 million to a luxury hotel on a top of a pile of loose dirt in a major earthquake zone? And the weather was not great anyway, but still, some of these things, when you think it through, it's this little cloud, and when you get close to it, it's nothing.
Yeah, so the owner of the property, I can see their motivation, because they get a lot of money, right? To be a landfill, to be a place that they can dump all this landfill, that would be bringing in money for them. So that, I can see why.
Well, the Bayland soils, and they're working with the owner. We don't know what the split will be, but I calculated 100 million tons of, it would be close to $50 or $60 million of revenue. There'll be costs in that. It's a lot of money. And dump sites,
But that money doesn't go to the city. That money would go to the owner, right?
Right, as of now, the city has not put out any clarity on what a benefit would be for the city, other than what they said in the presentation when Bayland Soils came and gave the pretty pictures that they always do with the environmental impact report that's slanted in their favor. They said, we're going to have these beautiful parks, and all of the homeless and the drug needles will be cleaned up. There's one or two people over the 30 years I've seen in there.
Yeah, it's
so,
not a major issue.
They say that we're going to get this park, which is not the worst thing in the world, of course, getting a park, but we have plenty of parks. But there's no, is there revenue? Is there, what's going on here? We know there's something behind the scenes, but we don't know what it is. And that's really maddening, because typically you have a development plan.
We want to have transparency in government, right?
And so what's the benefit here? That's what I was pointing out in the video.
What is the benefit?
Why?
Yes.
We're going to put up with this huge risk and major disruption.
Now, I understand that at one point, there was an option for a minimal fill version and a no fill version. Is that right? And what happened to that?
Well, this is where you talk about how things can be skewed in engineers and anything. So they were required to have other options. And they basically spent 99% of the thing on this one option, which they wanted to do. And in the back on Appendix D, I think it was, I pointed out in the video, they had a no-fill and a low-fill option. They gave a couple of paragraphs and said, oh, that's not going to work. Basically, didn't really do any analysis in depth at all. So they didn't, it was really not a valid option. So now we have to go back and maybe explore those options. But first, right now, what's up for approval before the Planning Commission is the big max fill option. So we have to say no to that, and then kick it back and say, okay, we need some options here. And that's what we're urging the Planning Commission to do.
This reminds me of the tunnel, when Caltrans said the tunnel would be impractical, and they just kind of just said, oh, waved it away. No, we have to build a 5-mile highway over these parks and mountains, and then it took the citizens to say, no, tunnel is an option, and then they said, fine, we'll look into it, but we're going to find out it's impractical, it's going to cost too much. They looked into it and said, oh, well, it costs about the same, actually. And so, sometimes the people have to kind of lead the conversation here to get it
That was quite a story back there. How I think it was Mitch who found
That's right.
the report. Yeah, it's when I first came in and watched that happen.
Mitch Reed.
And then when Mitch Reed, and when the Caltrans dedication, remember the Caltrans were there? They were so proud, patting themselves on the back that they did this tunnel, and we kind of just had to force them to do it. So yes, the public needs to take charge. You just can't trust that these people are on top of things all the time. They have their own agendas. Same here.
Yeah. So what can we do? I guess you mentioned there to talk to the planning commission.
Yes.
To speak to your commissioners. But what else? What can we do? How do we stop this or change this?
Well, again, the planning commission and the city council are important. You show up and speak. We had the thing. It came before the planning commission about 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Typically there's 5 or 10 people there, just kind of sleepy. About 150 people there showed up. Almost 95% of them were against it. And that's what we need to do.
Mean there were some people that were there for it?
We rallied the troops. And again, now we want to be able to be positive, but you have to be negative when you have to.
Yeah.
But now we're in the process of trying to really think about a realistic plan for the quarry. And most people can see that there is a flat land down there right next to Rockaway Center there that could be a nice extension of Rockaway generate significant income, and then the rest of it could be open space and parkland because those upland hills and all that stuff, that's a great hiking area. And also it's an Ohlone site.
That's right, yeah.
And so there's the
Stack, I think it was called. It was
whatever it was.
Yeah,
and some
or
of the
Timotac, I forget, but
some of the Ohlone descendants came and spoke. And wouldn't it be wonderful to cooperate them to have an Ohlone museum and site and even restaurant with native foods? I mean, there's a lot of creativity you could do there. And that's what we're looking for from the city, to take leadership. A lot of times the city would sit
wait
back
for the plan.
Yeah, wait for
to
some
them.
developer to come in, like you sit up by the phone all dressed up and wait for somebody to ask you out. And that doesn't control it. So
You got to proactively.
So that's what we're looking to try to do.
So far, I think there have been 4 that have come up to a vote. Am I right? 4 plans for there?
Since I've been here, it's been at least 3. I think there's one before I came.
Me too.
Trammell Crow, Peebles, whoever the last one was. And they were all mostly houses. But they just want to throw up the houses.
So the developers want to, and the owner wants houses because that's what's bringing the money in for them.
They think,
The city wants hotel because that's what brings the money in for the city.
And other retail.
And also the owners always want to have the houses on the hill because that's what they can sell for the big money. And to me, that's the deal breaker. If it's in the flat, I'm cool. Yeah, that seems like that should be a place for some housing and some
mixed
hotels.
Use, definitely mixed use, revenue generating.
But leave the hills, man. And also leave that bowl as a park.
Well, that's what we need to have somebody to put forward a vision. And right now, all we have is this turning it into a dump site, which is again, it fascinates me how the city manager and staff, who are really dedicated to making Pacifica economically viable, and they just commissioned a big economic opportunities report. I don't know if you saw that. Really nicely done about all the economic options in certain areas, how much they generate, and was really anchored by we got something that everybody wants. We've somehow been able to preserve our open space in this metropolitan area. This is our bankroll. We can leverage this. So why would you end up making it into a dump site? And shutting down, making it difficult to get here for 4 years plus, ruining one area, and then is that the image you want to have Pacifica? Pacifica is the dump site. It's going to make the national news. Of course it would. Is that what you want to put out? Is come here and see toxic waste or at least industrial waste?
Well, they call it restoration, but it's being a dump. So there's different ways of saying the same thing.
Right.
You could call something an aroma, or you can call it a stink. And I think there's more stink in this than there is aroma.
Yeah, there is a law that is generally about how lands must be reclaimed from the State Mining Association, and how that's interpreted is kind of vague. The owner by law has to be required to do this reclamation and satisfy the law, but it's very open-ended. It doesn't say you have to try to restore a hill, and I think we were talking earlier. You told me that's kind of like putting the toothpaste back in the tube. It's a great, metaphor, trying to reconstitute a rock hill with dirt.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been this new shape for a long time. I'm cool with the shape. We can fix some of the dangerous areas, sure, but we don't need to put the toothpaste back in the tube. We just need to take this what we have and make it a beautiful version of this shape.
Right. So it's just trying to be, reasonable, and there's so many things about this plan. I guess we go on here more about the plan itself. I think is kind of just insane, crazy, and I pointed that out. But having it done by a company which was actually started by 2 convicted felons.
Yeah, but they were convicted last decade.
Oh,
it was 2019.
No, they were convicted. Well, they were for a 7-year bribery period. They were convicted in 2021.
Oh, it's 2021. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, but still, like it's like over a year ago.
Right.
Felony.
Yeah,
So just over a year ago, they were convicted of felonies, and this is who we're putting our faith in.
well,
Or
yeah,
somebody is.
and the riskiest project you could imagine, and not only that, the founders are felons. Now they're in jail or they're fined, and they're barred from doing business in San Francisco. But Pacifica says the son of the felon who is not in jail, but now has been elevated to CEO. He wasn't supposed to be that. He's supposed to be in charge of this company. He's a kid, relatively.
Yeah.
And so he's in a position way over his head. And you've got this history. Now, I'm asking you, if they offered you, let's say you were an engineer, and they offered you 1.5 times your current salary to go work for them on this project, you would do some due diligence thinking about your career. You'd think about, can I trust these people? Are they going to pay me? Are they going to hire the staff? Would you sign on with a company with that track record?
I would think twice about it.
Oh, and I asked the planning commission people, and I asked the city council if they're watching this. I mean, the city manager and the city planning director. If they offered you, would you sign on to them? Wouldn't you think it through that this is very special? Are they going to be able to pay you over 4 years and manage this project? And so if you would not work for them, don't hire them. Okay, that's a pretty clear.
That's a good way to think of that. Yeah. Wow. Well, I've been kind of wondering why anybody in the city would be in favor of this plan, but now you tell me that they were convicted of bribery, huh?
Not going there.
I'm not going there either. But
The
still,
city guy, I think is
but the fact is, they're bribers. They've been known to do that.
Not touching that.
Yeah, I hear you.
We got enough problems without that. That's irrelevant. I see no evidence of that whatsoever here. But there's just the idea that are they competent? Can they hire the staff? And 4 years? 4 years straight?
4 years of that. That's incredible. Well, I'm getting the signal. I guess our time is up here.
Okay.
But I think the people have been given a pretty good idea of how awful this is. So hopefully, when I first saw it, I thought there's no way it's going to be taken seriously, but the city is taking it seriously. Let's hope they figure out how horrible it is, shall we? Maybe let's see this.
Well, yes, and be respectful, but just say, make your voice heard.
All right, thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Hey, this is Wavelength. Thanks for watching. We're not against them. We're up for them. Good night. Yeah, we went a little bit long, but that's fine. We get more content in that way.